Welcome back to the booth for the Aforza Insights podcast series. Welcome, Andreia. It's great to have you with me today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. And in today's podcast, we're going to go into some details about your experiences having recently joined us. You've come from industry, you've got plenty of experience, and at Aforza we pride ourselves on our industry focus. I think all of our employees have either come from industry or have that CRM Salesforce background. So you're in good company. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a bit about your experience. We're going to talk about your experiences onboarding into Aforza. And a little bit at the end, we're going to talk about what you might tell your old self going back to your roles and where you've come from. So plenty to chat about. Let's get cracking. But before we do that, maybe you want to introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself personally and your background. I'd love to get to know you.
Great to be here. I'm Andreia. I'm born in Romania. I've worked for 16 plus years, stopped counting. I joined very young, with some experience in Procter & Gamble in Balkans, Southeast Europe, then moved to UK almost 5 years ago.
Okay.
And also moved from P&G to Johnson & Johnson, that later became Kenvue, the consumer part. Throughout my experience, I have probably done everything that Aforza is doing, but well, far less RAMs and less the AI. So I started as a key account. I was actually knocking on doors, going store to store with my PDA, give it a few kicks.
A PDA, right? So pre-iPhone. Yeah.
As I said, I started very young, pre-iPhone. And I enjoyed the sales rep life, the key account executive life, the account manager, the business unit manager, pretty much all the levels that you can get in the FMCG world.
Sure.
And probably replicate it with pen, paper and Excels, everything that you guys doing at a higher speed. Recently, I've also led field teams and managed a little bit of the execution. So I would say I do speak FMCG world.
Absolutely.
I hope.
Yeah, I'm quite intimidated.
Right, so how many detergents would you like today? Should I put on the orders 2 or 5?
Excellent. And always you talked about a lot of the business side there in sales. How's your relationship kind of been on the IT side from your background?
I started being technologically challenged, as in, if you want me to install your Windows, I am not your person. Yeah. I've always felt there's a gap in every tool that I used, as in, why doesn't this work faster, or can it be done better? I came to realize, maybe 5 or 6 years in the business, that one of the biggest problems that I was encountering with the distributors field team was that they would spend about 30 minutes updating their PDAs at the end of an order.
Sure.
Multiply that with 400 people on the ground every day and realize how many orders you actually lose. So I think one of the biggest intervention in the technology world was helping change the actual PDAs to a newer model.
Yep.
I think the FMCG business is a lot about people. Well, like mostly everything, it's about people. Technology enables it. So you don't outwin your competition by being far smarter or the hardest worker in the room. It helps, but it's always the logistic that wins you the battle. And tech comes into that.
Absolutely. And you talk about PDAs, and for maybe some of the younger listeners on the call, that we said that predates the iPhone, but it was still mobile, right? It was still about giving sales reps.
The internet.
Yeah. But I guess still mobile, offline was important. Many of the things that we focus on today were still there, just on much older tech. And so
I've actually used pen and paper and counted stock on shelf, like how many facing, how many you have in the back, put them on a paper, do a quick maths. Yeah, everything predated what we have today.
And so, you talked about some of the technology challenges at the early start of your career, but I guess challenges don't go away. And if you fast forward to your more recent roles later at P&G and then into Kenvue, what were some of the challenges that you saw there related to maybe field team execution?
Time. There's always time. And I guess the biggest battle was you do look at some KPIs, which are, invoice value or number of stores visited per day or compliance. All the KPIs that you look nice in a scorecard. They can be green, red, whatever. But if you dig a little bit deeper, it all comes down to simplicity and time.
Yep.
So if you can enable a sales rep or a territory manager to do things faster, that time will be still spent on your business, and they will give you more value by human interaction, by convincing someone to do something, to buy something, to set up a display, no matter what they do. So in all my assignments, I've basically looked for options to optimize the coverage, the routes, steps of the call, whatever was necessary to make sure that people spend time on what's relevant. So any tool that can give you that with a few clicks, it's amazing because it saves you so much time. And I think the ROI on time is far greater than any other change you can do.
Yeah, and just to double click on a point you made there, I think, like you said, it's about that quality time as well. So you automate the bits that you can automate, so that ultimately you give that salesperson more face time, more quality time with the customer to do the things that really matter. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has systems, and everything is so developed and modern and updated that yes, it's a battle of who has the best system. When it comes to stores, to execution, when it comes to data, in the end, there's a person interacting with another person, make their life simpler and faster.
Well, absolutely. So now let's talk a bit about, what is it, week 2 or week 3 for you at Aforza?
Week 2.
Week 2, so it feels like you've been here for a lot longer than that. But, it's great to have you on board, and I'd love to just double click on, let's just talk about the company first of all. So what brought you to Aforza? What did you like, maybe when you were looking at Aforza through the interview process, maybe some of the people you interacted with, anything to share there?
Well, can't say now I didn't like something, right? It's too early.
You're here, right? Yeah.
I like to focus on the individual. I felt I had the pleasure of talking throughout the interviews with Ed, with Dom. I kept smiling the whole day after the conversation with them because they were focused on me, what I bring as an individual, not necessarily here's a case study and solve it for me, and ideally it's going to be within these parameters. So it felt like they're interested in the human factor, which is something very aligned with my personal values. And I felt like they needed to trust me, and I trusted them. And then when we discussed about the overlap of my experience and the solutions, I just realized that for the past, say, 10 years, all I can say is, where have you been all my life? You could have simplified my life so much more. I researched a lot of solutions. I watched your podcasts. But looking at the solution, they were so intuitive and simple for me. So when they actually gave me a test and say, take a look at the platform and see if you can do a demo, I was like, that's so easy. It's counterintuitive and simple. So as I said, I could be technologically challenged, but if it works for me, then it definitely works for someone. And there were so many things in the solution that I liked.
And just on that, I think you're, even though you're new, you're a bit of a legend joining, because I think it was you that did some 8 to 10 demonstrations during your interview process. So I mean, if we just unpack that a little bit. So you hadn't joined Aforza yet. You'd seen us from the outside in, and in your interview process, you were asked if you could demonstrate the solution, and you come back with 8 demonstrations. And so, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, after I've met Dom, he said, "Well, I don't have any IT background." I was like, "No, I can't code." And he wanted to understand my gap. How far am I from understanding the solutions? And they created a demo environment for me and said, just take a look. So I opened the demo, I freaked out. I said, oh my God, there's nothing there. It's like, there's no data. And then I realized there are some buttons. And I said, well, actually, that's kind of cool. So I wanted to do a demo, but I just couldn't stop. They were so much fun to do and easy because the system guides you. You just need to be very clear on where you want to get, like specifically on an example. I want to prepare a route for a sales rep. It takes a few clicks, and if you fail in the system just turns red and tells you, oh, go back, repeat that step. So
it's very guided. Right?
It's very guided, so it was easy for me to do it. So I didn't do, by the way, they were 11.
I'm sorry, not 8, not 9, not 10, 11. Yeah.
I'm not prepared. I prepared them because I actually enjoyed doing it, and they were so fun. At one point, I stopped. I said, I don't think they're gonna have time for this, so I just stopped doing. But also on the go, Dom asked me to demo something, and it was just, it's the system that helped me. Honestly, I don't think it was me.
Oh, good stuff, fantastic. And you talked about, Dom and Ed during the interview process, who are our two co-founders. But now you've joined, what about the people in the office, the people you interact with on a daily basis? What's your first impressions been like of Aforza from that perspective?
There's a very nice vibe to the place. Like, people enjoy being together and working together, and very helpful. It feels like Aforza belongs to everybody. And it is impressive. I mean, what I can get is that Dom and Ed, they really love what they've built. You can see that passion in it, and they've already advised us to give feedback. And I said, well, I think this one can be done better, and this one probably is not.
Never
good
stops,
enough.
right? Yep.
Yeah, it never stops. So, and there's such a positive attitude to this. I was impressed to listen to some tough conversation delivered in a very positive and let's get things going way.
Yep.
I really appreciated the vibe in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I speak for the whole office and for the whole company. We're thrilled to have you here, and you certainly bring a nice level of energy yourself, and it's fun to have you around. So, I'm personally, really looking forward to the next chapter at Aforza, and I think there's a lot going on right now, and it's exciting times ahead. So, Andreia, we talked a lot about what you like from some of the stuff you knew coming in, and we talked about those great demos that you did, but what surprised you? What didn't you expect from Aforza that maybe caught you off guard, or taken a step back from your perspective?
It's got to be studio. So I take it's early days. I mean, it's built, but you're making it bigger and better, but it blew my mind. So as I see it, as I understand it, Studio is an image recognition tool that gives you the metrics of the KPIs, very easy to read, and takes a few seconds to take a picture. So in my previous life, I've spent quite a bit of time thinking, okay, so how do we check compliance? How do we check share of shelf? How do we measure this? What's the principle behind? How long does it take? How many minutes? I counted minutes. I've done them myself, and I had people do tests, how many minutes it takes to take pictures, correct pictures of, say, 5-6 categories in a store, and how many stores do you need? How many are relevant? Where do you store the picture? How do you make the data and the pictures visible to the entire organization? Yeah. And I think Studio can give you just that in one picture.
Yep.
So that blew my mind in terms of, it can be so simple. I mean, I can see in real time what's happening and then just get measures out of it. I know that there are solutions out there, but I think this one feels a bit more robust because it gives you geotagging as well. It's just mind-blowing when you're doing audits, or when you're checking your share of shelf, or when you're checking exactly if you're in the right position. It's fantastic. So this one absolutely blew my mind.
There we go.
I was hoping it exists.
and it's there, right? No, I think Aforza Studio is ever so exciting for us. And as you said, it's a complete digital content execution platform. So whether you're taking pictures or sharing content, it does it all. And you touched on a really important point, and almost a shameless marketing plug for me, but you talked on the ability to take a photo and have something done automatically. And with that, in February, we're running our One Snap to Impact campaign. And the idea is that from one photo, one snap, you can drive business impact. And so you're right, there are a lot of solutions in the photo space, in the image recognition space, but what Aforza uniquely does is we can take those insights and do stuff about them. And so the workflow engine in Studio, and I'm sure you'll get closer to this, that can take share of shelf, out of stocks, numbers of face-ins, but then trigger things like, maybe if a product's out of stock, let's make sure it's in the next telesales order, or let's make sure that if a competitor is running a promotion, let's get one of our sales teams down to the store. All of that can take place, and that's exactly what we're going to be covering in our One Snap to Impact webinar at the end of February. So thanks for calling it out, and I think you speak for the whole company. We're all excited about it, so it's great we got that in there.
Super exciting. I mean, normally you put next steps on a paper or whatever in an email, but everything is a bit more manual. So you can do that with AI. That's just fabulous.
Yeah. And again, it dovetails back to your point on time, right? One photo, it takes care of itself. So you've got more time for the quality tasks.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that you're not hiring photographers when you're getting a field team. You're not hiring auditors. You're not hiring lovely assistants. You're hiring some people that have the skill to sell, to convince people to get stuff done. Let them do that. Yes, that's why you're hiring from. That's where the value comes, not from reporting. But the business does need the reporting. It keeps the flow going.
Yep.
That's how. So the reporting is mandatory, but it doesn't have to be done by the smart people who can drive your sales.
There we go. There we go. What a tip. Thank you very much. So you've obviously got quite close to the solution as part of your onboarding as well. I was actually talking to one of your colleagues, Lara, earlier today about who joined at a similar time. We're talking about some of the things she likes there. We're talking about the user experience side of things. I think you touched on the guided side, but she made the point as well about the connected nature of retail execution and TPM. And again, just flip that question to you. Any kind of views that you have of the solution now? You're getting even more hands-on than your first demos and getting closer to it?
So what I love is that it's a modular solution. You can basically have one or more.
Yep.
The more you have, it paints a bigger picture. So I have my own business. I have the solution. I can do promo planning. I can also see where I'm performing well, where I'm not. I can direct my sales team to taking orders with an optimized coverage. I can also check on my execution because I can build elements in between. So I love that it's end to end. I've seen solutions, fantastic solutions, but pieces of solutions.
Yes.
So individual TPM, amazing. I've seen fantastic retail execution solutions, but again, individual. So the interconnectivity, the whole story, it's good. I spent many hours building customer sheets. So if you go in a store, you need to have some background on the customers, and in the solution, everything is just one click and it's all there, from the picture of success to the performance of last year's business. This is very easy to use. It saves a lot of time. And I think the undervalued component is time in FMCG business. You get more productive, the more time you can save and spend it in the relevant pieces of the business. And throughout my career, I've seen people, and I've been one of the people complaining about the complexity, the admin part, everything that's behind. So the fact that something eliminates this and then gives you the full picture end to end, and you don't need to ask many departments or your colleagues about bits and bobs, and it's just one there linked. That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, do you know what? From our whole conversation now, I think the one key takeaway for me is that point you made about time and how simplicity, automation, it's not just about getting a job done quicker, it's about giving you more time to do the things that matter. Yeah. And I think, everywhere we're selling now, or in every industry, it's about margins and value. And if you don't have the time to do a quality job, then you're not going to be able to do that. And so I think that's a really important point that plays into simplicity, user interface, the connected nature, everything. So I think that's a really key point.
If I had more time to go back, I would need more time to spend with the customers, to know what they care about, know more about their brands, the business, so I can be more relevant with whatever you're offering. And I think it gives you time.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, with that, I think one of the things we always love to do with these podcasts is give some advice, some recommendations to the listeners. And I think you're in quite a unique position now, sort of two to 3 weeks in, having recently joined. If you were to know what you know now of Aforza back in your previous roles, any advice that you'd give to your previous self, knowing what you know now, if you were back at Kenvue or Procter & Gamble?
One, that there is hope out there, and one day things will be simpler. Just look for the solution that gives you the best data and take more of the complexity off your hands. And as long as there's something that doesn't look easy to understand initially because it seems too futuristic, but it saves time.
Yep.
It eliminates the complexity. Look for that solution. So when you're looking for a field partner, for a distributor, just look for the tech guys. Yeah. Because they probably have some gizmo to simplify things. Yeah. I mean, I've done many smart analysis and cool Excels, but it can be done a million times better.
Yep, absolutely. And just on that, I think keep unpacking this point on time, and I think sometimes I've spent many years myself in the software industry, and the user experience side of things is always seen as it's important, but it's that kind of important nice to have. It's like your system can do all this functional stuff, and the UI on top is seen as it's the icing on the cake, but it's not necessarily the most important thing. But I think from what we do at Aforza and so much of what you said, actually, the way things look and feel, whether it's the apps for the field users or the experiences for the online users or for a B2B portal, it really matters, right? Because again, it comes back to your efficiency and time.
Exactly. In the FMCG world, there are millions of good ideas every day, right? And they happen somewhere in a bubble. But the real stuff is happening when your sales rep or your field execution territory manager, when they meet the customer.
Yep.
And if that tool is not good enough, fast enough, robust enough, trustworthy enough, you lost.
Yep.
Every major execution depends on a good idea, but a fantastic way of doing it and bringing it to life.
Yep.
So you win based on the tools that you have when things really happen. And I guess the sales rep that wins is the one that can take a very complex idea and put it into very simple words.
I love that. Yep.
And if they have a solution to enable them to do that, that's the big gain for any company. So just as long as there's someone simplifying things for you and making them user-friendly, that's what you need to win.
Absolutely.
Everybody has amazing ideas. It's the equipment that makes the difference.
And the execution, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. To summarise there, I think the key takeaway, and you heard it loud and clear, is I guess believe there are solutions out there that can do this stuff, that can bring that connectivity together, that can make it easier for the field users. And hope you don't mind me saying, but I think Aforza is one of those, and we're very happy to have you with us and on board with the team. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Welcome to the podcast booth. Welcome to Aforza. I'm sure I'd love to get you back in the booth maybe in 6 months' time when you've been out there and working with customers, and we will recap on the perspectives then. But thank you very much for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your perspectives. It's been very enjoyable. And with that, I'd like to say that for anybody listening, if you like the insights you've gained from podcasts like this, we love to get in the booth with our employees, with people in the ecosystem and our customers and learn from each other. So if you've liked what you've heard today, then please subscribe and tune in. Plenty more like this where this came from. And with that, we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. So with that, thank you, Andreia, and thank you to all our listeners.
Thank you so much.